And is it a challenge with having so many kind of different countries, regions, policies, laws? Can that be a bit of a challenge for you to apply these best practices?
Very, very much. It's a huge challenge. You know, if you're dealing with, so we deliver in about 130 countries, so 130 different cultures, different languages, different laws globally of what is accepted, what's not. So we try where possible to have what we consider to be our sort of gold standard, but we do have to adapt.
And that's an excellent conversation I've got coming up with Claire and Gwen just ahead of the EATP conference next week. This week I'm sporting a rather lovely blue Zapier Wizards Guild jumper. Thank you for the team at Zapier for sending this through. It's a little bit big, but I like it. As ever, if you see anything in this that you like and love, then go to the Test Community Network. You will find it there. On there, you will also find the Test Community Network, the podcast, It Depends. That's the one I do with Amanda Danis. We're coming up on 2,000 listeners now, episodes played. So we were hoping to do a recorded session last week, but combination of illness and travel arrangements and complications, we weren't able to do an in-person one, but we'll be bringing you out a new episode very soon. Don't forget, last call for EATP, which is next week, and that's what the focus of today's conversation is with Claire and Gwen. Also, the week after that, we've got the Beyond Multiple Choice Conference. So submission deadline is the 3rd of October. Sorry, it's past. I would edit that one, but don't forget to attend that conference. That's a free event, free online, so get yourself registered. Also, there's a call for FAB exhibitor opportunities for the 25th to the 26th of November. That's the Federation of Awarding Bodies Conference. So they've opened up a new space there. And we have the fast pitch deadline is fast approaching 15th of November. That's for the Innovations Conference. Hopefully, you'll have received through your acceptance if you are speaking at Innovations or planning on speaking at Innovations. And then hopefully you've received through your acceptance there. Commiserations to those who didn't get a chance to speak, or sessions which were rejected. Some brilliant content I'm sure has been approved, so we look forward to that. If you want, you can subscribe now to the extended version of the Test Community Network weekly updates. So there'll be more information in there. So it's going to cover more detail, summaries on the podcasts and the marketplace options in there. And I'm going to provide you with just a bit more of a kind of insight here. So we've got events that are coming up. We've got the Society for Computers and Law. I've got an introduction to tech law. That's a virtual event. Worth checking that out. Association of Financial Planners. They've got a conference coming up, a virtual conference. We've got Empathy Week. Now, this one's actually for students at institutions. So if you work in an institution and you want to get your students talking about empathy within the tech industry, then it's worth checking that out. There is going to be an Empathy Week March 2025. So have a look out for that as well. Quite an important topic. We've got EF Vet. So that's the vocational community in Europe. They've got a Gen Z New Horizons session coming up. And then we've got the European Centre for Development. Same thing, actually. So apologies. I got repeated on that one. And then we have content-wise. We have, so James Plunkett, he spoke at the EATP conference in London 2 years ago, I think it was. So he's got a quite interesting article out about a vision for digital public work, so worth checking that out. There's an article in the marketplace as well about the Pearson ZXL on-screen assessments that are coming up. So if you're interested in how Pearson are going to deliver GCSEs on screen, then it's worth having a look at that. We've got AI education program, leveraging AI, how to participate in Google Startups Growth. So there's an article about opportunities there. And then podcast wise, we've got pedagogy podcast with formative assessment. We have educational matters looking at the ballot now. It's for America, I think. And then we've got the Claire conversation telling our story, reflections, regulatory excellence, and tomorrow's leadership. I'm going to leave you a summary of events that are going on in the market and space here as I play my interview with Claire and Gwen as we talk about equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Here's to invite that to the stage. And Gwen, thank you very much for joining me. Now we're going to talk about equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Do you want to just tell us a bit more about yourselves and what you do? Claire, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm Director of Exam Services at Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and I focus on test day delivery and operational delivery and exam security for a whole bunch of English language qualifications globally.
Excellent. Gwen?
And I'm the Director of Assessment Services So I'm responsible for the content creation and marking across our English language qualifications.
Excellent, excellent. So Cambridge University Press and Assessment, you're on a bit of a mission, you as an organisation, to promote best practice in equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging. What does that mean to you in your kind of roles, Claire? And Gwen, Claire, do you want to go first? How do you apply that in the job that you do?
Yeah, well, I'd say this is central to a lot of what I do, because when I'm looking at how we deliver our assessments, I'm looking really centrally at fairness and all the things we need to do to make sure that the candidate experience and candidate opportunity to perform in the test is as fair as possible. And there's a whole bunch of things that go into that, but part of it is around equity and diversity, for example, and making sure that it's fair, no matter where you are in the world, wherever you're from, that you can perform to the best of your ability. And to give some examples, I'll be looking at things like having a standardized experience globally, but having opportunities for candidates who need special arrangements, for example, to give them the opportunity to perform the same as any other candidate. So things like we will have special provisions in place for people who need braille papers or people who might struggle with our listening tests because of hearing difficulties. And we've got a range of different measures. But equity and diversity covers a whole range of different things. And so I need to look at every aspect of how we deliver the test on the day and what we ask our exam centres to do, because, we've got thousands of exam centres globally, and we have to make really clear to them what we expect and give them support in delivering that fairness to the exam candidates.
And is it a challenge with having so many kind of different countries, regions, policies, laws? Can that be a bit of a challenge for you to apply these best practices?
Very, very much. It's a huge challenge. If you're dealing with, so we deliver in about 130 countries, so 130 different cultures, different languages, different laws globally of what is accepted, what's not. So we try where possible to have what we consider to be our sort of gold standard, but we do have to adapt that in some regions. So we would never ask an exam centre to do something that isn't legal in their country. They have to comply with their local law. But where possible, we'd ask them to apply our standards as well, to make sure that candidates have that fairness. But yeah, it is a real challenge. For example, with certain disabilities, there will be better provisions in place in some countries than others in terms of what's enshrined in law. But we would expect every centre globally to support those candidates where possible.
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? And Gwen, do you want to tell us a bit more about your role in this and how you apply it to these kind of principles to your activities?
Yeah, so I'm really accountable for ensuring that our assessment standards are reflecting everything that we do and care about within sort of fairness, for example, and our EDIB principles. So ensuring with regards to content that we have the reviews regularly to make sure that the content is fair to our candidates. And we talk a lot about fitness for purpose, for example, making sure that our content is taking into account the test population. And that's something that really drives what we're doing. Similarly, I'm reviewing our principles of good practice at the moment. So they were last out in 2016. And as you mentioned at the beginning, we've had a real drive to look at how we are doing EDIB across the organisation. And so I am refreshing our principles to ensure that we are including EDIB and how we set that standard across what we do in assessment. And then how that kind of really filters into all our processes and approaches within test, content, build and marking, but also across everything that we do, with Claire's help on that one.
Quite a big job then, isn't it? But it's an important thing that needs to be done. And I suppose to some listeners, they're probably familiar with equity, diversity and inclusion, or as in America, for some reason they call it diversity, equity and inclusion, same thing, just in different orders. But it's the belonging bit, which I suppose it's always been there, hasn't it? But has obviously been brought out a little bit more. What do we mean by belonging, Claire, in kind of relation to assessment and within this mix? What does belonging kind of account for?
Yeah, well, it's kind of newer for us to look at that because we've been working on equity and diversity for quite a long time. But sort of tagging on the inclusion and belonging is newer for us. So we're still exploring what this means for our assessments and how to really embed it in everything. But it's about giving candidates the opportunity to feel sort of comfortable, that they can relate to what's happening around them, feel comfortable in the exam. And so we're looking at things like, to give an example, we launched a new version of one of our tests recently, the Digital Young Learners, aimed at sort of young kids. And it is a really cool test. It's really good fun. And we've had great feedback from the kids doing it. But one of the things we looked at in terms of sort of having a sense of belonging is rather than just having a pre-made avatar that you just have to use, they get to design their own at the beginning of the test. So right there at the beginning, they can choose an avatar to take them through the test. They choose what it looks like so that they feel more like they're part of it, that it reflects them, and that they sort of belong there in that test. So that's an example of something we're working on. But I think there's still scope for us to explore it even further and look at other opportunities to build that sense of inclusion and belonging into our exams.
And Gwen, with belonging from, it's obviously you guys have embraced it, and I am seeing it more and more kind of mentioned out as part of my kind of research ahead of this. But do you see that more organisations are going to be embracing the idea of belonging as part of the kind of EDI kind of grouping going forward?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that's discussed really at all levels, but I think for sure it's a tough one sometimes within content, but there are ways of doing it, taking into account all of the regional differences and the local country laws, as Claire mentioned earlier. But I think for sure it is a way that we're going. There are elements even within the learning materials, perhaps where for exam preparation, where you could include more things than the content itself as well. So there's lots of different ways and areas to consider it.
Yeah, I think as we kind of move towards this, hopefully a kind of more personalized experience, maybe, that's going to be an opportunity to weave that sentiment in a bit more within the process. So where can people find more about the work that you're doing and the opportunity? How can they also learn more about how to understand and include EDIB within their work? Gwen, have you got any kind of examples you could give us to where they could find this out?
Well, apart from coming to our talk at EATP, where we would be able to probably share a lot more the links that we've got to things, but our research pages on the Cambridge English website, so if you just Google that, you should be able to come up with quite a wealth of things that we have around it. We still have our current principles of good practice up there as well. So that's also a really good place to look. Claire, I don't know if there are any others that you can think of.
I mean, I was going to repeat what you said in that come to EATP, because we're going to have a colleague with us from our professional network who can talk all about the training that we deliver on this. And I think, that'll be a really good opportunity to hear from him directly about what Cambridge offers to other people on training relating to this.
Excellent. Yes, so please do come on to the session. Anyone who's attending EATP, make sure you check out the session. What day are you doing your presentation? Is it on Thursday?
On the Thursday.
Yeah,
on the Thursday,
excellent.
Yeah.
So if you're in Berlin on the Thursday, I think in the afternoon, then make sure you come on to the session. And what I'll do also is share in any links and references, and I'll put your LinkedIn profiles in there as well. So if people want to connect with you to find more out about it, they can do that. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Short conversation, but a very important topic. And we hope to hear more on this subject and matter going forward. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for that, guys. That was a really interesting conversation. I'm really looking forward to the presentation next week. So if you are at EATP, make sure you do check that out. I'm going to share into the podcast, the update is the feed for this, just some of those references. They'll also find those on the marketplace as well. So please do check that out. I hope you enjoy this. It's quite bright, this jumper, isn't it? It's quite big as well. But so if anyone would like a tent size Sapio jumper, then give me a shout. I do appreciate them sending it to me. It's a great one. Right, take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. And bye bye.